For those of you who are new to our world, and there is quite a few of you, so welcome. We are delighted to have you here. If we are just meeting for the first time, my name is Kate Bora. Fiona Pearman is my very good friend and colleague, and we are the authors of Core Confidence. We wrote this book back in 2018 in response to our own journeys, but equally journeys that we were working with our female executives on. All around confidence, career progression, personal brand, and really achieving what they wanted in career and life. And that ultimately brought us to design or co-create the Acts of Confidence program back in 2020. And since then, we've been delivering that program to an incredible group of women. One of our philosophies is that the act of confidence comes before the feeling of confidence. What we know from our own personal journeys and also the journeys of women that we've worked with is many of us are waiting to feel 100 and 150% confident before they act. And this whole program rewires our brain, and I don't use that word lightly, to start to encourage us to take small acts of confidence so that we can start to break down a lot of the roadblocks and the barriers and beliefs and the default behaviours that are holding us back and that have really been driving the ship for quite a long time.
We're really drawn to this work around how can we resource more women so that we are represented far more robustly and eventually equally at those senior decision-making tables.
One of the most powerful things that we facilitate, whether it's through our Acts of Confidence program or our in-house women in leadership programs, is the opportunity of just creating space. Really want to resource you to navigate through some of the things that we know might be holding you back. And so towards the end of the session, we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive into growth mindset and redefining your relationship with fear and failure. It's a critical piece of our work, and it is incredibly transformative, personally and professionally, when you really start to dig beneath the surface when it comes to this.
We want to help you identify some of the old default patterns that maybe are really burdensome, really costly, and are really keeping you or hindering you achieving all that you could from a career point of view. And we want to help you step through that and understand it better, because what we know and what we see time and time again is when we can identify what's standing in the way, when we can identify some of our default thought patterns, when we can start to resource ourselves to overcome those.
Where am I? What is it that I want? Where do I want to go? What's not working? What do I need to do differently? It is easy to get trapped down in a vortex of busy. We'll talk more about some of the habits and behaviours that can seemingly feel like they will help us progress. There's an opportunity to write that down. But what we want to do now is just orientate your brain to make a very clear intention around what would be most valuable over the course of the next couple of hours. We have now been doing this work with women both in organisations in the Acts of Confidence program now for well over 7 years. So that is in group programs and individual coaching as well. We are going to dig into a conversation around what many of us believe is required to be successful. The actual 7 acts of confidence that we talk about come because we were, off the back of writing the book, sitting there thinking, what would we need to start doing? What would women need to start doing in context of organisations, so women working in organisations? What would they need to start doing to achieve what they want in career and life? In our work, we find that we tend to, and two of the sources of confidence, our major sources of confidence, are hard work and know your stuff. In the years as we're doing the research for the book, in our own journeys, we really recognise that working more hours, being across more detail, going and getting qualifications, so more courses, we'd hear that time and time again.
Our experience, 95% of women we work with have got a loyalty, have got a default assumption around these old success formulas, because that is exactly how we were conditioned and raised. We were rewarded for being good girls, we were rewarded for being nice girls, we were rewarded for being yes girls, we were rewarded for working hard, and we were rewarded for getting good marks in our exams. So all of those things coded in for us a way of being and a way of thinking about success. And what we want to do today is really help you disrupt some of that, because we know that that's just not going to be sustainable over the long term. Hoping that just by showing up, by doing the good work, and by delivering really well, we're hoping that that will get us the outcomes we're looking for. But it can't. When you think about it, we've got to know more ourselves. We've got to take some responsibility here and figure out what it is we really want. Now, if that was super easy, you'd already have done it. And what we know is getting clear is actually quite a deep process, and it takes some time. It really takes some time to work through some of the layers that have kept you a bit foggy for a while and have kept you on the, the hamster wheel of doing the things you're currently doing. Again, we will always say in all of our works, treat yourself gently and compassionately.
We've got so many incredible stories from clients who have been able to say no to opportunities, even potentially if they're full-time job hunting, because it hasn't aligned with their values and their career goals, and been able to stay in the discomfort of and the uncertainty of not having something, to be able to be in a position to say yes to an opportunity that does line up with their values and what they want to achieve.
And I think we do this because potentially it worked early in our career, or it worked at school, or it worked that, hard work was rewarded. We were recognized for it. And so we've kind of got a default assumption now that that's the way to get ahead. That's what counts. And it can be really frustrating. We hear this all the time. We work with women who say, I'm doing a great job. I'm delivering everything. I'm actually getting good feedback that I'm doing a great job. And yet other people are getting promoted. Other people are getting the roles that I want. Other people are getting the opportunities. And I don't understand what's going wrong. And time again, we've got that they're just simply over relying on the work and the delivery as the source of being visible, as the source of being rewarded and recognized. And we're doing that in a way that feels genuine and authentic to us. And this is a lot of the work we do in the Acts of Confidence program. Acts of Confidence number 2 is articulate and share your value. And we do that in a way that's resonant and feels totally doable for you. Side note on this one is that if you are concerned about being overconfident or boastful, the chances are you won't. Most people who do that have lack self-awareness around this, and therefore they do it in a way that's clunky and feels overpowering. Very unlikely to be your issue.
Many of us default to over-preparation, particularly when we're not feeling confident, particularly when we have a lot of self-doubt. We will sit there and we will go into the detail. Remember I said hard work and know your stuff. 2 of our default sources of confidence. It's not that they don't matter, but in our experience, when you don't deal with the fear that's coming up, and the number one fear when we think about this in context of presentation, so whether you're presenting to your team, senior stakeholders in your organization, or externals, we worry about not being able to answer a question, right, or getting something wrong.
I think the piece I'll just quickly add is the reason we want to focus on the tactics is it feels easy and quick, like it's a hack, like I can do it, like it sounds like it's easy. And we often get, when we're asked to do presentations, and I was in with a large organization recently, they said, oh, no, they're always asking for the tips and the tricks and that sort of thing. And I went, oh, yes, and we can give you all of that. But the truth is, we won't take action. We won't do anything differently until we rewire our mindset. And these are neural pathways, and in our experience, have been laid down generally over decades, and that takes a little bit more work.
And so we see a lot of women very busy, doing a lot of repetitive, low-value work, often because they're very good at it, right? Often because they're very reliable. I call this performance punishment. That is a behavior we see a lot of. We're not getting the opportunity to get the experience, to step into what is likely uncomfortable, right? Busy in the detail, really comfortable, no self-doubt, lots of certainty, lots of confidence, right? Step over here to getting involved in a project where you don't have deep expertise, where you are going to be surrounded by stakeholders you don't know so well, where there are going to be questions that you can't answer. Oh, that feels really uncomfortable. I don't have the confidence, I don't have the headspace to be able to do that. I'll just stay here, keep working really hard. They'll reward me, they'll recognize me. What's always interesting here is we tend to underestimate our own skill, capability, experience, and overestimate what's required to be successful, right? We call that the confidence gap. So there's work to be done. But inevitably, if you are stepping up, moving forward, stepping into new industries, organizations, more senior roles, there will be skill, capability, experience that we've been missing from your CV. And being able to curate that in your existing role so that we can close that gap, so we can get that achievement on your CV, so that you will be well positioned to be considered for those promotion opportunities is really critical.
This is just a chance to get curious and aware. Okay, is this something I tend to do? I fill my days up with the stuff that feels easy and I know I'll get, good praise for and I'll do well, but I'm not stretching myself and I'm not learning. And if we're not learning, it's very hard for our career to progress. So we're asking you to question and evaluate, where are you getting uncomfortable each day? And I think the final one here, and the one that we know plays out hugely for women everywhere. And it's very much situated with that inner critic, which a lot of you mentioned earlier. Got that inner critic going on, and boy, is she loud, and boy, does she bring me down. And that perfectionism, that fear of failure, I've got to do everything absolutely perfectly. And if I don't, oh my God, the world will fall apart. I will be punished, or I'll be judged, or, something terrible will go wrong. That escalated fear around perfectionism, to really start to understand and to dig in what's going on there, because we've seen that mostly for most professional women we work with, they are already overperforming. They're already doing what we'd call a 12 to 15 out of 10. And so even when they drop it back a little bit, it's still everybody else's 9 or 10. And so understanding that your perfectionism is potentially costing you a huge amount, because it does take more time and energy, and it's exhausting.
Quiet. And again, this is why clarity is powerful. Clarity of what's expected of you. Clarity with what is good enough. Not everything needs to be a 10 out of 10. One of the blessings of being in finance, I think, is you learn a concept called materiality, right? And so in that context, it's okay for there to be mistakes up until a certain value. Most of the time, perfectionism is about our ego. And it's about fear, worrying about what will people think of me. What we're wanting to do here is just challenge some of these beliefs, behaviors, default thinking that is impacting the decisions we're making and the actions we're taking, right? Around how we're choosing to spend our time, what we're focusing on in the day-to-day in the workplace. Right? There is work to be done to understand what your values are, to understand what your strengths are, to understand what that sort of 3 to 5 year career goal might look like, and then to articulate and share your values so that you can show up and present all that you are to be able to be positioned well for those career progression opportunities. And so our ability to be clear and raise our awareness around some of the things maybe that served us well in the past but are not serving us now, and then what it's costing us, is really critical.
What we know is, for humans, once we become aware of something, we're far more likely to do something about it. So being willing to face into the cost of this, the cost of the repetitive work, the cost of over preparation, the cost of thinking my hard work will speak for itself. I mean, when we work with women on progressing their career and negotiating salary, they inevitably get easily 10, but often, 20, 30,000 more than they currently are, because they have been static for so long, and they're delivering, but they haven't been taking stock, and they haven't been sharing, and they haven't been visible in terms of their contribution. So when we look at the cost of the old success formula, and some of these are going to be maybe more prevalent or more aligned to where you were at, and it's really important to name it and to own it, because then we will make different choices as a result of that.
What is this cost of your old success habit? We've just talked you through some of these old beliefs, behaviors, default assumptions that have served us in the past, but probably are not serving us very well right now. In fact, overused. And how is that impacting you? And here we're talking about through the lens of progression opportunities, maybe not achieving what you want career-wise, maybe feeling really torn in terms of priorities personally and professionally, health, well-being, burnout, money, all those sorts of things. So the purpose of all of that was that old way has served us. And if we want to achieve all that we want in career and life, we always say, yes, we can have it all, just not in 1 week, 1 month, 1 year. So we're very big on helping, talking about getting clear about what you want and what you don't want. Again, what you don't want for now, it's no for now, not forever. And we talk a lot about that in Active Confidence number 6, setting boundaries and saying no with confidence. But understanding the drivers of where you are now, and then being able to make some decisions today around how you want it to be different is really critical, because continuing to beaver away, to continue to do things the old way, will mean that you will continue to experience the cost, the compromise, whether that plays out physically in health, whether that plays out financially in your salary, and worse, your super balance, and then ultimately your wealth creation, asset acquisition, whether it plays out, and here's the kicker, right, in your own self-esteem and value and self-worth, because I know that I could be doing more, making more of a contribution, having more of an impact, but for whatever reason, I'm not doing the sort of work in the sort of organisation I'd want to. All of this has the potential to change if you make a decision. I think one of the most beautiful things that Fee and I love about working with our clients in the Active Confidence program is it's not about doing more courses. It's not about acquiring more things. It is about recognizing what is stopping you from achieving everything that you want in career and life. And in most cases, it is a mindset shift. Right? It's recognizing that maybe some of the assumptions, the beliefs, the behaviors that have gotten me to now are not serving me and are actually keeping me where I am. And our ability just to make a decision to do something different, to take a small act of confidence, immediately starts to put us on the path to doing things differently. So our work is, yes, to advocate tirelessly for all of that, and then to support you, to resource you at an individual level.
You already have the skills, you have the capability, most of you have the experience, you have what it takes, but there's a whole lot of layering in that sits on top of that holds you back. And a lot of our work is helping you remove and get through what we call those roadblocks.
What we know is that most of you already have what you need. Right? You are already resourced. You already have enough skill, capability, experience. What really needs to happen is you need to get clear around what you want. And then you need to face into the fear of what's stopping you. What's stopping you saying yes or no? What's stopping you from taking action or making a decision?
The reason that as humans we have the neurobiology, we have the pathways towards fear, and that red flag, that stop, all of that sort of thing, is to keep us safe. So its purpose is to try to keep us safe. However, our body and our nervous system and our brain can't distinguish between real fear, the bear in our path, or a fire we need to get out of, that sort of thing, and the fear and the idea of fear of what might happen if we speak up in a meeting, or we go to do a presentation, or someone asks us a question we can't ask. The same reactiveness happens within us. And that's why it's so hard to deal with and control, because it's wired in. It's just part of how our body responds to the situation.
A really powerful, pivotal one in terms of being able to, and there was a great comment in the chat feed around reframing fear, redefining fear, not as the red flag or the stop sign, but actually as the signal that says, oh, okay, what is going on here? I need to start to look at this differently. It is not an automatic stop sign that says, okay, go back, no go. We teach you how in the moments when you recognize an opportunity that is in alignment with your career goal, that may feel a little bit scary. You may like, oh, that stakeholder's incredible. I really want to work with them. I'd love to put my hand up and be involved in that project. I'm scared. I'm scared of screwing it up. I'm scared of being told I'm not good enough or I don't have what it takes. I'm scared that it might have negative consequences on my career. And so just our ability to slow down and reframe and start to ask yourself good questions is so potent.
Yeah, I love that pace, Kate. You talk about going from red flag to white flag, and the segue for that is getting curious. The way we do that is to slow down and to get curious, ask some good questions. Hey, it feels like that's really risky. It feels like that's really dangerous. But what can I do right now? What can I do to just stay present and curious to see if really what's going on here?
We talk about imperfect action, but our ability to take small acts of confidence in low stakes, safe environments is where the gold is. Our ability to challenge the status quo, to challenge what we think, but in a safe way, right? In a space where our brain is not going to go into meltdown. Our body, our nervous system is not going to go all red and, stop working effectively for us and stop thinking, often known as fight or flight. Our ability to recognize, look for the opportunities. Every week in the Acts of Confidence program, every module, we're saying, what are the small acts of confidence you can take? We start to reform the rules, our new success formula around what is required in order for me to achieve what I want in career and life.
Yeah, I love this. And I love the opportunity we have to test and learn. This whole idea of experimenting means I don't have to get it perfect the first time. I'm giving it a go. I'm having an experiment here. At the very worst, I'm going to learn something more than I currently know. And at the best, maybe something really cool is going to happen and I'm going to achieve something I didn't think I could do or I could try before. I get to make choices and I don't have to get it perfect, because not getting it perfect is often equally as valuable. It gives us intel and understanding that we wouldn't have had otherwise. What we know is that growth mindset is something everyone has access to. Some of us have been raised and conditioned and have, become loyal to the idea of the fixed mindset, and that's okay. That's where we've been up until now. But every one of us has the opportunity to shift to this growth mindset, to shift to this expanded way of thinking, and this ability to tell myself, not that I can't do something or something's impossible or too difficult, just that I can't yet. So my first attempt in learning didn't go quite as I'd expected, but I did learn this, and now I'm going to try something else, or I'm going to try again. And starting to decouple the attachment to perfectionism, this can be take a little bit of time, but being curious about it is really, really useful. One of the hallmarks of people who have a growth mindset is that they are curious. They want to learn more and know more. And in service of that, they're willing to get things wrong and do a big thing that we advocate for: take imperfect action.
What we all are talking about is right-sizing the level of outcome or the deliverable for what is relevant and right for the context and the scenario you're operating in.
And it is a bit uncomfortable to shift that. This doesn't mean, as Kate said, we're not going to do things well. We are going to do things very well. In fact, most of you are doing things exceptionally well, better than most other people. It's just calibrating and understanding that you do not need to overdo. And so starting to understand that and just being gentler with yourself around this it frees up so much space and time, and it allows you to focus on the things that do need more attention rather than thinking everything has to be done at that level. It's not something arbitrary. It's not something that's happening to you. You're deciding whether or not to see failure as something about you, taking it personally. You're deciding whether to let it derail you, let you stop you from doing anything else. One of the key pieces of the work we do in the Acts of Confidence program is we resource you so that whatever comes your way, whatever happens externally, which again, we cannot always control, and very often we can't control what's happening outside of us, but it resources you to meet that, and to meet that as your authentic self, and to have actions, strategies, language, tools, so that you meet that really well. And even though it feels challenging and uncomfortable, actually underneath all of the stuff that goes on, I've got this. Once women are resourced to own their value, to speak up, to set boundaries, to do all the fabulous things we've been talking about, is they go back into their organizations and they start demonstrating and role modeling that. and they start to disrupt the system. So right now, for what every single person on this call can do is we can show up that little bit differently at work. We can try one small act of confidence. We can do small things that actually can be quite a big impulse into the system.
We've helped you bring some awareness and consciousness to what that might be costing you. And importantly, if we keep doing that for the next 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, where we'll be. Now your opportunity is to make a decision, right? And it may be a small act of confidence. You may be in a place now where you want to make a decision around something big you want to shift in context of your career and life. It is up to you. What matters most to us is that when you leave here today, you have a clear next step, that you don't procrastinate. You don't think, oh, that was really interesting, that this was a valuable use of your time. And when you look back on today, when you look back on what the action you took because you were here today, because of a decision you made today,